Hello and welcome to Saints Live, the final whistle. I'm Steve Forbes.
I'm Kenzie Benali.
And it was a perfect start to the game for Southampton, but a disappointing end as Norwich run out 2-1 winners at Carrow Road. Now, joining us again to discuss all the action and give us their analysis, we have Dean Hammond and Joe Prince Wright. Dean, let's come to you first. Let's get your general thoughts on that game as a whole, please.
I think, like you said, Steve, it was a great start. Perfect start, really, like I mentioned before the game, to kind of settle the crowd and diffuse that enthusiasm that the Norwich players and fans have had. And it was perfect. Great finish from Shay Adams. And Southampton, I thought, completely dominated the first half. Passed the ball well, approached the game very, very well, got in good areas, good opportunities. I think the switch of play worked really, really well. Whether it's Livramento or Cole Peters. I think that was the overlapping midfield players were causing problems, and lots of half chances in good areas, and conceded a sloppy goal really, which I think could have been stopped and prevented. Cole Peters could have been a little bit stronger in the first phase, and then stopping the cross, and then a bit of communication between Bednarak and Salisu just to allow Salisu to release himself to try and get across Pookie to win the first header. But apart from that, very good in the first half. And then I think the second half, just a change of mentality from both teams. I think Norwich improved and stepped up the tempo and thought we need to press Southampton and put a bit more pressure on them. And Southampton looked a bit too comfortable and thought this is going to be a little bit easier. And once you do that, it's very difficult then to step it up again. And a sloppy goal, I think Alex McCarthy will be disappointed with the second goal. The defending, I think, needs to be a little bit stronger, but Alex will look at that. I'm sure he's looking at it. I think I need to do better in that situation. So, yeah, disappointment, I think frustration, because the game was there for Southampton to be won, especially in that first half where they were so dominant. I think it's getting that second goal is the next step for Southampton when you're that far on top. If Southampton could have gone in 1-0 or 2-0 at half time, I think they would have come away with the 3 points today.
Indeed, yeah, a bright start, Joe. Couldn't kill the game off and unravelled late on. How did you see it?
Yeah, very similar to Dean. Obviously, same old kind of story from earlier on in the season. It seemed with a lot of chances being created early, Saints come flying out the traps. Even after the early equaliser for Norwich, Saints again just took control of the game. There was heroic blocks from Norwich and a few shots that were off target, just kind of snatching at chances. And yeah, I think we've been here before, guys. It's Southampton dominated the first half in large spells of the game overall, but just couldn't put chances away. And that is, yeah, it's a reoccurring theme, unfortunately. And I think that, like Dean mentioned there, you're going to have to get the second goal and take those chances when they come, because I think going in 1-1 at half time, the crowd was fired up with Dean Smith coming in as the new manager at Norwich, and then bringing on another striker at half time. They kind of sensed that we can have a go at Southampton here and they might tire in the second half. And I think that's what happened again. Even though Saints had a lot of the ball in the second half, Norwich were pretty comfortable to sit back, and they actually looked a lot more dangerous in the second half with some of the chances they created. So you could see it at the end when the camera panned to Ralph Hasenhüttl after Theo's chance just went wide. He was shaking his head, and he knew that that was a game that got away today.
Well, let's start picking apart the match, shall we, and talk about the major happenings from the game. Dean, you said pre-match that you really like that attacking partnership of Shay Adams and Adam Armstrong, and of course they linked up again and combined for that opening goal after just 4 minutes. Talk us through that one, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, like you say, Kenzie, I think they're building a relationship. I think two of them together are very, very effective. And the goal comes from Southampton having that dominant possession. Even within the first few minutes, they looked very, very comfortable. I think Norwich allowed Southampton to have the space, especially in the midfield areas. It was a ball played into Adam Armstrong. I think it's a poor first touch, but the second touch is very, very good. He's very, very aware of where Shay Adams is, kind of plays it around the corner. And then it's all down to Shay. Shay's inside the area and he's very, very strong in those situations. He kind of wants to get the ball onto his right foot. Holds Grant Hanley off really, really well. He uses his body and gets it onto that. And when he has it on that right foot, him sliding into that far corner, he's very, very good at for every time he was. And there was moments in the game where they did combine very, very well today. And I thought Shea, especially in the first half, was a threat. He had that opportunity late in the first half where he broke through, and I like that where he's through. He could have played Adam Armstrong, but he was very, very selfish, and it was a good save by the goalkeeper. But the goal was very, very well taken. And again, Adam Armstrong in moments today showed his sharpness where it came into his feet, and then he would get
for just the 3 minutes before Teemu Pukki
foul didn't come. The chance was then allowed to develop out wide, and when Maran's got his head up, I mean, Teemu Pukki's got to get, and he does that pretty easily. And I actually thought it went wide when the chance. I just expected McCarthy to save it and to block that near post area. And I do think the goalkeeper will be looking at himself there and saying he should have got his angles a little bit better and should have kept that one out. And it seems to be a bit of a weakness. There's been some similar goals now. I'm thinking back to last season and earlier on this season where just players are sneaking shots in at the near post in those kind of areas. So yeah, I think the entire Saints defence, that's been obviously very strong in recent weeks, and that's been the massive improvement this season. But I just think a couple of old bad habits snuck in today where they weren't tracking runners or they just switched off at key moments from set pieces. He should have done a bit better with that. So it's easy to criticize individuals, but I think overall as a team, in those key moments, there were just too many wrong decisions being made, and Norwich certainly made the most of them.
Well, Dean, it was Hanley that put the hosts ahead with just 10 minutes to go. Dissect that one for us, if you will.
Well, I think it's just a case of the second half, Kenzie, where I mentioned that mentality changed. I think Southampton, Norwich in the second half were winning, were a little bit more aggressive, looked like they were kind of wanted to
And he wasn't really in a position that he was comfortable being in. There's one cross came in the first half. We went to wind up a shot and felt a bit of contact from Cantwell and went down looking for a penalty kick. Just a few loose passes, which isn't really like him. Usually he's pretty safe and solid on the ball, but allowed James Ward-Prowse to then get further forward so Diallo could slot inside. And he did come inside and get on the ball a lot to get forward and really in the first half. But yeah, I don't know if it's an experiment we'll see again. He did okay, but just didn't really feel like he was comfortable in those situations on the right and coming off the flank.
Yeah, it was an interesting one, wasn't it? Because Dean, we thought that Ralph might switch formations, but he did stick with that 4-2-2-2, and he chose Ibrahima Diallo, as we said, out on the right over several other options. What did you make of that decision?
I agree with Joe. Diallo did okay. I think it didn't look natural for him to be in that position. I think, from the selection of the team, we all guessed that there would be a change of formation tactically in some way, whether it was a 3-5-2 or a 4-3-3. But obviously the formation was the same. I think potentially it was, I think the manager maybe wanted to play not a natural wide player there to allow Livramento to keep going down the wings, so someone who play a little more centrally. So if you played a Walcott or a Nathan Teller, they're going to want to stay wide. They're going to want to have the width, and that kind of probably affects Livramento. And I actually thought Brandon Williams did very well against Livramento today and prevented him really being that attacking threat. But like Joe said, when he got into his game is really breaking it up from the midfield and then breaking from a central position to maybe feed a wide player, to feed a striker. He's not naturally that creative player that when he gets into that kind of number 10 role like a Stuart Armstrong, he can slide a ball through, he can put that vital cross in, he can get that shot off. So yeah, it's hard to judge him because it's not your normal position, but like you say, he did okay, but there was some sloppy passes, there was some moments where you expect a little bit more from him. But I think you can probably say that about a few players today. I think, Southampton have been that good over the last 4 or 5 weeks and got some excellent performances that the standards just dropped today. And when it happens for 3 or 4 players, it's noticeable.
Joe, you addressed Southampton's current inability to add a second or third goal to their game. What did you make of us in an attacking sense today? We had 12 shots in the first half, but chances just seemed to dry up in the second period.
They did, Steve, and I think, as I said, Norwich knew there was going to be a storm. They weathered that early on with only 1 goal, and I did like the movement from Che Adams, getting in behind on a few occasions, and Adam Armstrong was dropping deeper and coming off the left. Al Yunusi as well was buzzing around as usual, but it just felt like it became very predictable in the second half. Norwich were happy to sit back and let Romeo and Ward-Prowse have the ball 40, 45 yards from goal, and then, okay, try and clip a ball in behind our defence. And target. So again, that's a big issue, and a couple of the players there, there's still some good partnerships developing with Che Adams and Adam Armstrong, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And it seemed like Norwich, again, like Aston Villa last time out under Dean Smith, were happy to say if we get to half time and it's level, or maybe we're only 1 goal behind, then we can get something from this game. I think they were buoyed by the fact it was only 1-1 at half time, and then we saw a much different Norwich City in the second half. So Saints, I think, are just giving opponents at the moment a little bit more optimism than they should be, because they did play extremely well in the first half, but just got to take chances and create more openings. I think apart from the Che Adams chance that the Dean reference was good save from Tim Krul. Can't remember any real clear-cut opportunities in the first half. There were some good blocks, some good efforts from outside the box, but just want to see Saints get in behind teams more, because they do have the players to really hurt them when they can do that.
Absolutely. Well, let's look forward now, shall we? Because it's Liverpool up next. Anfield, not an easy place to go, Dean. What are your early thoughts ahead of that one?
Tough. Obviously, it's a tough fixture. Liverpool are a fantastic team, but West Ham showed last week Liverpool can be beaten. Liverpool have got some fantastic individual players, but I think this is a game. It's a great opportunity for Southampton to bounce back, and they've been very, very good against the so-called bigger teams this season. Away at Man City was a fantastic performance, and I think it needs to be something like that. The team will need to be very well structured, very well drilled, disciplined, and when they get those opportunities on the break, which they will do because Liverpool will be a bit more expansive. They will try and attack and score goals. So them interceptions, that counter-attacking football that Southampton can be very, very good at and be brave with how they play can cause Liverpool problems. But yeah, it's going to be a tough fixture. It really, really is, because Liverpool at Anfield are one of the best teams in the league, obviously, and one of the best teams in Europe. But Southampton have proved this season bigger teams. Even against Chelsea, the result ended up 3-1, but 11v11 at 1-1, I think Southampton could have won that game. So yeah, it will be very, very really good performance in.
Well, Joe, Southampton aren't exactly strangers to a decent result against Liverpool. How do you see next week going?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but I think this is quite a good time to play Liverpool with some of the injuries cropping up. And, look at their bench against Arsenal. There's a lot of teenagers on there. Likes of Andy Robertson are out. Henderson is struggling. Firmino's out. Yeah. It's the same old story for Saints. We need them to take those opportunities. It probably sets up a bit Saints that they will have opportunities on the break, but they need to take confidence from that performance at Chelsea, the draw against Manchester City away from home, and try and replicate that performance. And then, as I said, be more clinical when you do get the chances.
Absolutely, as ever, we march on. Well, Joe, Dean, thank you so much for your input. As always, a pleasure to have you on the show. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. As we've mentioned, it is another trip up north on the cards, this time to Anfield to take on Liverpool. We'll be live next Saturday from 1:45, so make sure you join us then on Saints Live. Bye for now.